Okay, I'm going to officially kick it off. I feel like you don't need an introduction because you're Claudia Christian and everybody, especially in the TSM community, knows who you are. So I'm lucky enough today to be sitting here with Claudia Christian to get some one-on-one time to really chat with you about your work in the realm of the Sinclair Method and your work with your nonprofit, the C3Foundation. So I'm just really glad to be sitting here and have this opportunity to speak with you today, Claudia. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Katie. You've just done so much for this cause, and I'm grateful to be here. And we're talking about my favorite things.
Yeah. Well, we're not talking about cooking. I know that's one of your favorites.
That's true. I can probably throw some cooking tips in there, though. We'll just wait and see.
Okay, great. We'll plan for that. So, okay, Claudia, most everybody knows that you started the nonprofit, the CThreeFoundation, about 5 years ago, I believe, to really provide resources and information to people who are looking for it, who are suffering from alcohol addiction. So can you please just start by telling us why it is that you started the C3Foundation?
Well, I started C3 because it started with me writing a book. As we talked about, I felt that it was my life's duty to spread the word about the Sinclair Method once I found this just shocking, quick fix to what I was suffering from for years and years, and what I knew that millions of other people were suffering from. So I wrote Babylon Confidential with the intention of spreading the word. But let's face it, I'm not Julia Roberts or Tom Cruise, so I don't have that big of a fan base. I have some very loyal, amazing fans who've also helped with C3Foundation, and I've been supportive through just about everything I've done. But I'm not a huge name. So when the book came out, even though it was very well received, it didn't reach as many people as I wanted it to reach. So then I made my documentary, and at the same time I was thinking, what's the next step? And the next step would be to provide a space that somebody like I did back in 2009, who's looking for a solution to their alcohol addiction, can find all the information about TSM in one place and find a really non-judgmental, shame-free zone where, it's just scientific based, all the research, the clinical trials, the doctors that would be offering their services and that support TSM. So you're not once again going to a doctor who says, oh, I'm not going to prescribe you an opiate, or getting it completely wrong. So I really had this dream that I thought, wow, if there was a nonprofit strictly devoted to TSM, no other alcohol treatments, no fellowships, no nothing. Because at that point I had tried so many different things, and I thought none of those worked for me. So I'm going to only advocate the thing that worked for me. This is going to be a one-stop shopping for the Sinclair Method only, and nothing else. And that's what we've become. We've become the only nonprofit in the world that advocates TSM 100% exclusively.
Wow, because there was no one place to find information on TSM before. I mean, other than Dr. David Sinclair, what was it like if someone wanted to find out about TSM before the C3Foundation?
Well, I'll tell you, back in the dark ages, I call it the Middle Ages, before Claudia Christian's crusade, C3.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize. That's awesome.
Yeah. It stands for a few things, but that's one of them. Back in the day, when I was looking for help, I happened to find only the word Vivitrol on a flyer when I went into my medical detox for that one time. And so I found that flyer and I Googled what Vivitrol was. And that's how I found out the word Naltrexone. I had never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. And from that Google search, that led me to The Cure for Alcoholism, and it happened to pop up Dr. Roy Escapa's seminal work on TSM. And that literally, had I not gotten that flyer and I had not gone home and been curious as to what the heck is this shot, why do I have to take a shot of a medication? That scared me, just not the shot itself, just the thought of having this thing in me that I wouldn't know if I reacted badly to it, then it would be stuck in my body for a month. So all these thoughts were going through my head, but I was willing to try anything. So had I not been able to just have that one word, Vivitrol, which was then the generic name, Naltrexone. Oh, okay, what's Naltrexone? An opiate blocker. And then boom, Cure for Alcoholism. Go to Amazon, look at the first free little pages that were shown up, the little chapter that was there, start reading it and go, huh, holy moly, you know, that was, so then I ordered the book immediately because there was no more freebies to read. And I knew it probably wouldn't be at my local bookstore, even though I did go down and check, but I ordered it online. And then I just started researching, and all of these things started popping up, but not a lot, not a lot at all. It was just very, very little bit of, you know, the half-life and what people use naltrexone for, did that research. And then of course I thought, where the hell am I going to get the medication? And that's when I immediately thought, I've heard about people ordering like Viagra online, so I thought maybe I can get this stuff online. And that's when I found that you know, I had to really go the back route. I did call my doctor, and I did get an appointment, and I did go in at that point. My GP, I've told this story before, but I went in and he refused me. He refused to prescribe it. So at that point, I had received the book, read the book, and really decided that this was going to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a journey.
So it was quite the journey. And you have to remember, when C3Foundation was articulated and created back in the day, which is only 5 years ago, really, we were not only just a one-page website, just a landing page. We only had 2 people that I knew of that would prescribe, and that was Dr. Stephen Cox and Dr. Joey Brett, who is my doctor, my personal doctor in Sherman Oaks. And that was it. So,
Wow.
and Stephen Cox doesn't really, I mean, he's the president of the National Anxiety Foundation. He's not a GP that's handing out naltrexone to people with alcohol use disorder, but he was a friend of Dr. David Sinclair's and a friend of Dr. Roy Escapa. So I met him through emails and things. And this was in the sort of, it feels so long ago. It was a decade ago, but you have to remember, all of these researchers were actually very kind to me. I would reach out to people that were involved with the Project Combine, and I would say, hey, I read your studies on, you know, visual cues, Dr. Raymond Anton, you know, and he would write back to me. And then, you know, Bankole Johnson, you know, one of the biggest addiction researchers, would write back to me and send me emails and say, oh yeah, here's some more of my papers and some more research, Claudia. I mean, people were just left and right were so kind, and providing me with all this information and extra research, which of course, you know, the majority of it still to this day goes mind-blowingly over my head. But over the years, I've become so much more interested in the brain and the function of the brain and the reward center, and how all of these, you know, natural opiates that we produce, endorphins and everything, just coexist with. It's so fascinating to me. So in the beginning of C3, of course, I didn't know this. What I knew was that this thing really worked for me, and that I better open up a nonprofit organization and get more doctors signed up, and make this someplace where people could just go and find out everything for free. That's another thing that I insisted on in the very beginning, and up until very recently. I was coaching people for free, doing everything for free. I didn't make any salary or nothing, not even a stipend, and it was rewarding and wonderful. And then last year I started to say, you know, there's a fine line between not making yourself, you know, not valuing yourself and doing things for free. I didn't ever I wanted to provide free service to people with alcohol use disorder, because I felt so ripped off myself going to a highly, highly expensive rehab facility that didn't do anything for me except take my money. So I was very sensitive about charging money and things like that. And then I thought, you know, my experience is worth something. And I just, you know, recently started charging for coaching. And it actually, I think, makes people even more accountable when they're paying for something. And at the end of the day, you know, a coaching session is a hell of a lot less than a couple of bottles of wine. In most cases, it's a hell of a lot less than rehab. And it has a much higher success rate. You know, I've found that people who actually take the time to be accountable and to comply and to have regular sessions have an incredibly high success rate. Wow. So it's been an incredible learning experience, you know, just being the sort of, to see this in the past 10 years, to see how it's grown, to see how doctors are finally coming around. You know, I always said C3 is going to be 10 years old. We're over 5 years, a little over 5 years old now. And I always estimated that when we turn 10, this is going to be a household name.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the momentum I've seen since I've been following you the last year and a half, it's been really exciting to see that. And so I know you mentioned you started with 2 doctors. Where is the C3 Foundation at now with doctors?
We have over 100 doctors. We have also, all of Canada is covered by telemedicine.
Wow, all of Canada.
The entire country is covered. The entire country of Australia is covered with telemedicine.
Wow.
We recently, C3 Europe has some exciting news. There's some new providers in the UK. We even have a German doctor, which we didn't have before, somebody in Poland, somebody in Mexico, somebody in, I mean, all places that, you know, I really, obviously we can't focus on those places, but Canada was a big coup. That was, and Australia, Dr. Andre Colness, and and Roy, of course, knows somebody in South Africa. So if anybody ever needs help in South Africa, I can lead them to Dr. Roy Escapa, who very helpfully then sends them to a doctor in South Africa. It's Cape Town, but hey, we're slow strides. But yeah, in the US I would say that the US, I'm going to knock on wood here, but I would say that we're going to be 100% covered with telemedicine by the end of the year.
Wow.
I'm really praying for that. And so you really think about that in itself. We have telemedicine covering the majority of the country. There's some East Coast states and Alaska and some other states in between that are not covered, but I think we're at about 86% coverage right now.
Wow.
So and then a lot more physical doctors that offer TSM and that actually know about it. So it's incredibly exciting. You know, people, and you know, we also have to take into consideration that TED Talk that you spoke about, which was how you found me. That has almost 2 million views. So people are really looking for a solution to their drinking problem that doesn't necessarily dictate that they have to stop drinking forever. Most of the Google searches are, you know, stop abusing alcohol or without AA or any, you know, they phrase it because they've tried other methods. Most of the time people do come to my website and to me, it's because they've really reached their end of the rope. They've tried a lot of things. This is not like the, you know, it's really, it's fascinating. But when people start to say, how come nobody's ever heard of it? I have to remind them that when I started, literally nobody had heard of it. So, but now, you know, you can go to the CThreeFoundation.org page and you get a heck of a lot of information. I mean, Larry King, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Atlantic Magazine, Reader's Digest, you know, these are publications that they didn't even not know about it, but they would probably never think about having me on there speaking about it. So things are definitely looking up.
Yeah, I really feel that too. So what are some of the challenges that you've encountered with getting C3 off the ground the last 5 years?
Well, I mean, one of the big things is that, you know, when we first started out, let's face it, addiction ain't sexy. You don't have all the bleeding hearts that you have for cancer and leukemia and MS and you know, whatever disease. Yeah. You don't have people saying, oh gosh, you don't have cute kids, you know, you don't have little fuzzy animals, you know, that you're trying to save. It's not like PETA, you know, you're trying to save people who other people misconstrue as lazy or selfish or any of these other horrible words that people use for people with alcohol use disorder. You're just a drunk, you're you know, sloppy, you're undisciplined, you're a loser, you know, all of these horrible words that they tell addicts. Well, imagine that I'm trying to have people donate to a nonprofit organization that supports people who have this issue. You have to really have compassion and to understand that this is not a choice. As we've discussed many times before, there's nothing rational about a compulsive disorder. This is not a choice. I didn't wake up one day in my late 30s, early 40s and go, wow, this sounds so much fun. I'm going to become an alcoholic. Woohoo! You know, I'm gonna misuse alcohol and abuse alcohol. That was never a dream of mine as a little girl. So people have to understand that you know, it was rough in the beginning because I'm touting something that is shameful and a stigma related, and it's got so much negativity surrounding it that, you know, you really I mean, there's few people, Betty Ford for one, who had a huge platform and took advantage of that. And she reduced a lot of stigma so that people could come out of the closet and say, wow, I suffer from the same thing as the First Lady of the United States of America. And kudos to her.
Yeah.
And it's still taken an extraordinarily long time, because then we had another First Lady say, just say no, with no understanding of what a compulsive disorder is. Just say no. Oh, okay, Nancy. You know, no offense, but that kind of set us back another 100 years. So I think in the beginning, C3Foundation was fighting against that that sort of stigma. You know, why are you opening a foundation for alkies, for drunks? With this, not only that, I was touting a treatment, a medical-based, medicine-based, science-based treatment that not many people knew about. Third of all, we really had to deal with a tremendous amount of well-meaning people that would take our time, our valuable time and energy, because they had some grand idea, you know, business angels or something to make C3, put us on the map and raise lots of money. And in essence, they were essentially wasting our time, because they you know, their ideas just couldn't be applied to a small grassroots nonprofit.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was some of the things. And I think it's a really good reminder to tell people, you know, they really have to understand that C3Foundation is me doing the coaching and going to medical conventions with Jenny, and Jenny literally does everything else, except now we have Mike, and Mike is doing the IT and helping tremendously, wonderful volunteer. But for the, you know, up until recently, it was just me and Jenny. And so when you know, and you have to understand, we get between 75 and 150 or 200 emails a day. So these are people not using the website. So instead of going to the website and saying, you know, I need a doctor in Chicago, and going on the map and saying, oh, here's 4 choices of telemedicine and in-office doctors that I can choose from. Instead, people send an email to the contact page, and that comes into my box, and they say, I need a doctor in Chicago. They don't understand that I'm the one that has to read these emails and send them out, and it can become, you know, and Jenny has to, Mike and Jenny and I now go through all the emails, and it's just a laborious process, because people, and I understand, by the way, that they're drinking currently, or their loved ones who are just at their wit's end, or they're people going through detox or withdrawal. So it is easier to just send a message to the contact the website, because it gives Jenny and I and Mike gives us more time to actually devote to the things that we need to be devoted to, like fundraising and you know, going to these medical convention forums to try and sign more doctors. So any help that the outsiders can give us, just use the website. Everything you need to do TSM is on the website, I promise you. We're not hiding anything behind the contact page. That's, you know, that's just that everything's there. You just have to click on all the tabs.
I know, and you guys recently upgraded your website, and so it makes it so much easier to find a provider, and they can book sessions with you on there. Are there any other areas that are on the website that you'd like to kind of highlight right now for people?
Well, I think it's super easy. I think it's a much cleaner website. It's a much more better organized website. Pretty soon we're going to have a testimonial page. So if anybody has video testimonials, they can send them to Jenny. I really want the testimonial page back up. I think it gives people, I know that when I want to try something or buy something, or you know, even though this is not buying something, it's just going on a treatment, it's really good to hear from real people, to hear their real responses. And I want people to see other people's drink logs, and I want them to see their graphs, and I want them to hear authentic stories from real people about their experience on TSM, so that they can see that it's really a well-rounded journey for a myriad of people. It's up and down. A lot of people it's straight, you know, so it's just nice to have the testimonial page. So that'll come soon. And then of course, what we're super excited about, which we hope to launch within the next 3 years, is we're going to have another site that's going to have training for TSM, for doctors and for nurses and for psychiatrists and anybody who can prescribe. So that's going to be really exciting. And once that's launched, then also we're hoping that once we get it established, people can get continuing education credits. That's, doctors are always looking for continuing education credits. So if we can get that, then there'll be even more doctors wanting to take that training. And that gives us the assurance that people won't go on our page and click on a doctor, make the appointment, pay the money, take time out of their day that's valuable, and get to that office, and the doctor ends up saying, oh, why don't you take the Vivitrol shot, or, you know, just take the pill and don't drink, you know, even though they're on our page, that this has happened, because doctors will agree to the 7 things we ask them to agree to, but then they won't employ them. So it's frustrating. So now if all the doctors have to take the training, then we can rest assured that we're sending people to the correct doctors.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I can just see how that's going to be this huge snowball effect. Like, I just really see the momentum's building.
That people have to realize that the number one way we get to sign new doctors, and the way that we enrich that find a physician page, that find a provider page, is to go in person, have a booth, go to these places. Like we're doing the American Society of Addiction Medicine in Orlando, Florida, coming up pretty soon in a few weeks. That's the 50th one they've actually thrown, and we have a booth there, and I guarantee you we'll probably walk away with 12 new doctors. So you know, that's fantastic. One of the main reasons why Canada is fully covered now is because last year I was the keynote speaker at the Western Canadian Addiction Forum. We're going back this year to teach a TSM workshop, but just being there in person, you know, is so important, because people really learn. You know, between Jenny and I, we cage those doctors in, and we make them sign on a piece of paper that they're willing to help their patients. And that is also another reason why we're constantly fundraising, because each of these trips for Jenny and I to go get the flights, get a hotel room, buy the booth, and, you know, get all of the printouts that we need and the keychain holders and all that stuff, that's about, you know, it's like 10 grand.
Yeah.
But they're so important, because the more we do it, the more the word spreads and the more doctors we can put. So that pretty soon the whole United States will be covered. And hopefully in 5 years from now, I want the whole world to be covered. I want the whole world to be covered with TSM.
Wow. 10 grand is only a week in rehab, Claudia. You can do a lot more with you spend it well.
No, we don't stay in the really ritzy places. You know, but we need, between the cost of the booth and everything else.
Oh,
you know,
yeah. Yeah, to have the whole world covered. I mean,
we fly coach.
Yeah.
Trust me. I was using my miles for the longest time, and then we're like, damn, I ran out of miles. So
no, it adds up, and attending conferences and flights, and yeah, it just all adds up.
Yeah. And that's why
that's not even accounting for your time either.
No, it's not like they're paying us to show up. Yeah, so
I just want to take a minute to like recognize how much effort you're doing and asking for nothing in return, be it all of these sessions you've done one-on-one with people, traveling, meeting with doctors. I know for me, when I first heard about it, I sent you an email and you responded in like a couple hours, and I was like, wow, like she took time to respond. And I know you do that with like nearly everybody you interact with. So that's like, just the devotion you have is inspiring.
Thank you. I feel responsible for people. I do. And I think that's why I have to take a sabbatical, or whatever you want to call it, break, every year. I have to, because I get that, you know, I worry about people, and I am somewhat addicted to answering emails, because I always think it could be a life or death situation. And it is. It's, you know, it is a life or death situation for a lot of people. This is, you know, and just having that real person reach out back to them, the person that they saw in the TED Talk, the person that's running CThreeFoundation, to have me contact them, it just, I think it's something that is important to them, and they suddenly want to be accountable, and they want to comply. if I'm taking my time out of my day to help you, then you've got to help yourself, you know. That's the feeling I'm trying to give them, is that I care, because I do care. I look at myself where I was so alone. I was so alone. Nobody understood what I was going through. Nobody in my close life had walked through the shoes of an addict. You know, my brother had, but we didn't really have the same journey, and he was chastised as well, and really treated badly by people, punished, a lot of punishment. So I don't want people to feel punished. I want them to feel loved.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, it reminded me, because I read your memoir, Babylon Confidential, and it was so amazing to know you, kind of like the TED Talk you and the C3 you and that you, and then know a bit more through your memoir about your history and growing up and childhood and adulthood. I loved reading that.
Thank you. Thank you. That was cathartic, to say the least. It's hard. But, you know, when you come out of the closet, whether it's sexually or as someone who's misused a substance, or with an eating disorder or a mental illness, when you come out of the closet that you've been in, I don't know about other people, but I had to come out with a bang and just say, okay, if I'm going to do this, I am going to do it. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to talk about drinking in the morning and throwing it up. And I'm going to talk about drinking vanilla extract. And I'm going to talk about, because I don't want anybody to think that they have a story that's more shameful or embarrassing or whatever.
Yeah.
I want them to understand that it has nothing to do with shame or stigma. It has to do with just the truth. This is what we went through. There's no comparing. It's apples and oranges for everybody else, but we went through something similar. And it's not, you know, I was a worse alkie than you, or you were a worse alkie than me, or, you know, our addiction was our addiction. Our issues were our issues. And the fact that I can just come out and come clean made me feel free. It freed me from all of that stuff that I was stuffing down inside and holding inside, you know, and the confusion, the real confusion of not understanding why this was happening to me. Why did this thing take my body over? Why couldn't I control it? I'm disciplined. I'm smart. I'm successful. I'm a good person. I am not morally bereft. I'm a good person. I'm generous. I'm kind. I'm sweet. You know, I'm loving. Why? And all those questions and that constant why. I knew right then that if I didn't explore why, and if I didn't find out why, and when I found out why, if I didn't talk about why, then I could never be honest to myself. I could never get better. I would have never gotten better if I had held it inside or come up with some other excuse from what I was suffering. If I would have, you know, lied to people and told them that I was just ill during that time, I wouldn't have gotten better had I not been honest to everybody and to myself. And that's a really hard thing to do, because when you are suffering from any sort of addiction, you're lying in a way because you don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reasoning. There's no reasonable explanation for why you're drinking mouthwash. So how are you honest to somebody who admires you or loves you or looks up to you? How do you say to them, well, here's the truth of what happened to me? In order to do that, you have to say it even though you don't understand it. So it wasn't until I really understood what happened to my brain that I was able to really grasp that it wasn't my fault, and that I shouldn't have any shame about it, and there is no stigma. There shouldn't be stigma, because it's not my fault. It wasn't my fault. You know, and with alcohol misuse, it's so easy to say, well, you don't have to drink. Well, you did, you know, and a lot of people do. And it's the same thing as, you know, it's trying to, anyway, it's such a complex subject that it's just, it's overwhelming at times. And I think people get very overwhelmed, and it can be a very long process before you finally find a way that's right for you to share it with the world. And for me, I had to share it with the world. With other people, they have a need for privacy. They don't want to share it. They want to just get treated and move on. and that's fine for them. But this is something that I find joy in,
Yeah.
of saving people years of their lives. That you know, saving children the wrath of a parent who's on a substance or out of control, saving a marriage, saving a life. I mean, that's a great thing.
Can I ask, do you still feel shame at all around your addiction, or did you shed that? And what kind of things did you do to kind of work through that?
I feel shame about my actions to a few people still, mostly my family. That shame will probably never go away. The only way I can make it go away a little bit is to be consistent and to be, you know, to be clear. I feel shame of some actions in some relationships because I've had, you know, a bumpy road before TSM, a little bit during TSM. I hadn't really, you know, in the beginning, I always thought that it was strictly biological, and I was really touting that horn a lot, like, oh, this is a biological issue. Through the years, things that I didn't really know were profoundly bothering me bubbled up.
As they do.
As they do. And I had pushed them down. And there's a very good chance that I had pushed them down with alcohol. But, you know, here's the funny thing about memory is what I remember before the addiction crept in is I remember a lot of really great times with alcohol. That's the problem. That's what you remember. When, of course, once the addiction crept in, all I remember is bad. Everything bad that happened in my life had a direct result of from alcohol. That was a direct result from alcohol misuse. Every fight, every this. I mean, majority of them. I'm not saying every single thing, but a lot of the bad things that happened was once the addiction kicked in, once the compulsive behavior kicked in. That's when things went bad. But prior to that, I didn't abuse alcohol, so I don't really have a lot of bad memories. I mean, I have things that obviously were profoundly awful. Alcohol probably being involved in me being raped when I was young, my brother being killed by a driver that might have been under the influence, that kind of thing. But that's not alcohol directly that I'm imbibing. So I think the shame that lingers now is more regret. It's not shame. I don't feel personal shame. I feel regret at my actions through certain things. But I've also learned, and this is incredibly important, that I've finally learned, really truly learned to not only forgive myself, but to completely love myself. And I wouldn't be capable of really showing other people in my life that love if I didn't start here. And the only way you can do that is to really 100% completely forgive yourself. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to get tinges of embarrassment. Even I do. I'm 53 years old. I mean, you know, this started happening for me a decade ago, the healing process, and it's an ongoing thing. And there's certain times that I think of things that I did. Of course, you know, the nice thing about the human brain is we start to really, those bad memories fade away. That's how we protect ourselves. And so when I think back on you know, doing a face plant at the Hollywood Bowl from, you know, getting drunk, you know, as I'm walking to my car, literally a face plant because I'm wearing high heels and I had too much wine, tripping on my trousers and hearing somebody go, "Oh, she's drunk."
Oh man.
You know, that kind of stuff, you know, getting up and you've got a cut on your forehead and it just, I mean, just things that you just want to go, ugh. But, you know, then of course your brain says, well, you could have tripped on high heels even if you weren't drunk. Well, probably not, but yes, it's possible, you know. So you're constantly trying to, which is actually a good sign. It's sort of your brain going, well, come on, you know, just let's let that memory fade away because it's not important. It's not helping you. It's not doing anything positive for you in your life right now. So let's try and fade that away. You know, and there's things that I can't ever make up in my life. My parents went through an incredible amount of pain between my brother and I. You know, all I can do is be incredibly present now and be kind and generous and try and help them. through whatever they're going through, I try and spend as much time as I can, give them as much love as I can, and that's all I can do.
Mm.
And I hope that they're grateful that my brother and I are still alive.
Yeah.
but I can't make up the years where they were worried about us. I can't make up the stress that could have possibly, you don't think it runs through my mind that maybe both of their cancers were caused by having two children that were addicts?
Wow.
I mean, I think about that all the time. Did the stress of what, what I did cause any of this illness? I mean, it's a lot to take on. And frankly, you know, I thank God every day that the committee has gone away. It's gone away to the point where I wake up happy and I go to bed happy.
Mm.
And that's a huge step in the right direction. And it's a huge thing for me to be able to say that, because I'm a really sensitive person. And there were times when I would go to bed and just cry about, feeling guilt and remorse and shame. And that doesn't help anybody. It's not going to help the people who I'm coaching now. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help the people in our monthly meeting. If Claudia doesn't feel good, I can only show them what's possible at the end of the road, even with pain and shame and guilt and remorse and all of these negative feelings. Even with all that, you can still end up in a really good place, whether it's the long road like I took, or whether you reach that place in a year or two. It's reachable. And that's the most important message to give to people, is that no matter what, you've got to start with you. You've got to love yourself and forgive yourself. That is the first step. It's more important than getting, to saying sorry to everybody else, is to say you're sorry to yourself.
Yeah.
Is to really, really say, I'm sorry and I love you. And I'm sorry I put my liver through this. And I'm sorry I put this through it. And I'm so sorry and I love you. Please. That's more important. I think that's the first step in the right direction.
I'm so glad you're speaking to this, because I think that's such a common thing. I know it's come up in interactions I've had and you've had with people, where they do hold on to, I know. Why does this keep happening with us?
I know, we just cry. Well, it's such a heartfelt thing. It's so filled with emotion.
Yeah.
Fingertips and coming out is a sense of healing. And you're right, there's so many people that are still beating themselves up and focused on that.
And to know that, to have you share that you've gone through that exact same thing, and kind of, I feel the same. The truth of it is like, you have to love yourself and forgive yourself, and all you have is right now. But obviously that doesn't fix everything, and it's about doing what you can in this moment. But just to have you, as someone that we also greatly admire and look up to, be so vulnerable, helps lift the shame, I know, for me and for others as well, because it's just part of the human experience. And when you've fallen into alcohol addiction, it's really this shared experience. For so long I felt so alone, like you said too, and we're not alone. We're all in this together. So thank you for speaking to that.
You're welcome. And that, that whole reasoning, that whole idea of a fellowship for people on TSM is why I'm doing this AF buddy, alcohol-free week buddy system thing. Because honestly, what I think we need, and you and I spoke about this briefly, I know what we need. What we need are what 12-step programs have with sponsors. We need sponsors. We need to sponsor each other. We don't need to use that word. I use the word buddy, because it's your TSM buddy. It's somebody that you can connect with on a daily basis, somebody who encourages you when you're down, somebody who has no shame and no stigma, because we've both been through it. There's nothing any of my TSM buddies can tell me that I'm going to go, you what? You, why? You drank? I'm like, yeah, okay, now what are we going to do? Great, okay, that's okay. There's no failing. That's the beautiful thing about TSM. There's no failure. There's no, as long as you're complying, and if you didn't comply, we'll get back on the horse, but please try and comply. But, even in an AF, like you want to do an AF week and you can only make it 3 days, that's fine. Did you take your pill? Great. Okay, let's talk about what you learned that day that you drank when you
Yeah.
didn't want to drink. Which brings us to triggers and brings us to how to be mindful and how to really sit in these feelings and not react with just grabbing a bottle or popping a pill. And eventually my dream is I want to build this website, which is another reason, another fundraiser we're going to have. I want to build a website. I've already bought the domain, tsmbuddy.com. And I want that to be a website where people can literally just all congregate and find themselves a TSM buddy for either compliance. So you can have a buddy that will help you comply, like send you little texts at 4, and maybe you can help them with an AF day. You help each other. So or maybe you're just TSM buddies talking about bringing new endorphin producing activities into your life. So maybe you live in the same city and you decide to do walks together. I have this whole dream in my head. Let's go for coffee. Let's do things. Let's go bowling. I have this whole thing that maybe someday there'll be TSM buddy groups or conventions where we all meet up and we say, it's just like a community. I have this dream of a community where people share not only experiences of which doctor they went to or anything, or do Facebook pages, but also where they engage each other on a regular basis, privately, individually, and in small groups. This goes back to, I remember when I was living in London and I first started TSM, and I thought, wow, I want to open up a thing called SoBar, which is a bar that doesn't have any alcohol in it. It's just all non-alcoholic drinks and things, because I thought there's no place fun to hang. There's all these pubs and everything, and I even pitched it to Richard Branson at Virgin, because I thought Virgin bars.
Yeah.
I think I was ahead of my time, because now I just read an article in the New York Times that they're opening up all these alcohol-free bars for people because so many people are going abstinent. So but in my head, I'm dreaming about people that are TSM buddies coming up with activities that don't involve drinking, or drinking together safely, or doing whatever, and making friends and being friends with people who are like-minded and who are also on TSM. So that's my whole impetus behind doing these AF weeks. And so far they've been amazing.
Wow.
They've been amazing. Yeah.
As you talk about that, I'm so excited. If that would have been around when I first learned about TSM, I share that vision, and I want to do anything I can to support you. And if someone's watching right now, if they want to support this vision, what do they do?
Well, obviously we need donations all the time. I mean, I've mentioned that a million times, but it's true. We are very grassroots, and without funding, we can't really do any of these grand schemes that are in my head. Or in Jenny's, or in anybody's, or suggestions that people say, open up a clinic at, Rosebud Reservation. Would love to. Do you have $1 million? Because I don't. Let's get it to the VA. I'd love to go petition the VA. So, which I have on a very small level. There's lots of great ideas. So besides that, if anybody wants to sign up for the TSM Buddy experiment, they can just email me through the website, or claudia.christian@CThreeFoundation.org. Pretty much everybody knows my email address by now, so just shoot me an email and I'll put you in my AF Buddy Week list. I'm probably going to do a few more months throughout the year of 4 people at a time. And then I need breaks between so I can compile all the data. And then I'm going to start applying these things that I learned in the monthly meetings that you so graciously host. And then when we get the funding together, I'd like to launch the site. And at that point, once we do that site, which will be international site, then anybody, how they can help is they can have any period of time on TSM and any need or desire to help somebody else and to be helped. And basically, it's the buddy system. It's sort of like bartering. You put how long you've been on TSM, what your needs are, and you're looking for a buddy from January to February, or for this particular week, or to stay, abstinent because my kids are coming into town, or I need somebody to help me with compliance. Do you need somebody so we can help each other with compliance? And go from there. So once that's launched, people can just join. I hope everybody joins. I think it'd be great. We'd have a few thousand people right off the bat if we just get the Sinclair Method warriors, your choice, your recovery, and option saves lives people, and all the people from the monthly meeting, we get them to join. We'd have, a few thousand people already that could buddy up.
Heck yeah. So
Yep.
what is the vision then with the TSM buddies, but then also with the C3 Foundation at large for the next 3 to 5 years? What are some of your goals or visions that you have in mind?
Well, we definitely want to try and get Naltrexone over the counter, and that would, I don't know if you recently saw the FDA did something highly unusual. They're trying to get naloxone spray and injectables to be over the counter. So what they did is they actually funded a drugs fax administer these two different ways of delivering naloxone for overdose. And this is in direct response to the opioid epidemic. But how that applies to us is naltrexone is the sister drug of naloxone. So what we want to do is try and get first a citizen's petition in the next 3 years presented to redo the information pamphlet inside boxes of naltrexone to reflect targeted pharmacological extinction or targeted extinction or the Sinclair method. So we want the FDA to say that it is far more useful to take this medication if you're going to drink alcohol. So it's almost like a prophylactic. If you think you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be around alcohol, or if you're going to be whatever, then you pop a pill of naltrexone, as opposed to saying take it in the morning and be abstinent, because as we know, the pill wears off. You're blocking good endorphins. We don't like that way of prescribing it. So that's the first step. So the second step after getting the insert changed with the information on it would be to then make another petition to make the drug over the counter. So that would bring in a world of change. Just imagine if you could pop into your local CVS and get over-the-counter naltrexone. I mean, talk about lack of shame and stigma. You're buying it like you're buying a condom or you're buying whatever else. Kids, could buy it if they're going to binge drink during college. I mean, people with issues that really have a pressing need for privacy, police officers, EMTs, lawyers, doctors, airline pilots could just go into Rite Aid, Walgreens, buy some naltrexone and take it home and do TSM. That is a huge dream of ours. Within the next 3 to 5 years, we also want to get in the next few years, we want to get the physicians training program up and running, which would then, would ensure that all the doctors on our website have been trained in the Sinclair method, so that we have the confidence to send people to them and list these individuals on our website as providers of the Sinclair method. So that's going to be great. I personally, so we've got the TSM buddy thing, the physician training thing, we've got the over-the-counter naltrexone, citizens petitions that we're starting. I would love to see a clinic somewhere on a reservation of some sort. I would love to. I know that there's a big opioid problem, another drug problem, but alcohol is always so pervasive, and not a lot of. I would like to move forward with the VA as well. It's just, I don't have a lot of contacts and the time and the money that it costs it's the time and energy. We really need more employees at CThreeFoundation desperately, and we need somebody for marketing and for fundraising. We need a permanent grant writer. We need volunteers to do specific things and to be committed and to not just drift away. Some people get excited, wow, I reached extinction, I want to give back, and then they're excited for a week, which is great, but then they just disappear on us, and that means that Jenny's wasted a tremendous amount of time training them, talking to them, and then they disappear. So there's very few people like you and Mike who stick around and actually do the work and stay around and commit to helping others and to making this grow. So.
Yeah, funding is absolutely necessary. And me just thinking about where my life would be without the Sinclair method and without your video, and the destruction that alcohol was causing my life, and the just total opposite experience I have now being sober, that drives me. And I'm so, glad to be of service in this realm, and glad to you for being of service in this realm and really, providing a real solution for this option that has ruined so many lives and destroyed so many lives. I was talking to a doctor recently, and they said that of all the people who wind up in prison, 40% of them who are there committed their crimes while they were drunk on alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
just to know that statistic and know how much alcohol is destroying so many lives, like that compels me to give and to do and to
and yeah, and imagine if we could take those 40% of prisoners who are already incarcerated and give them naltrexone, and an hour later have them watch virtual reality of a bar and be stimulated by all of the scenes of smoking pot, lifting up beers, all their favorite alcohol, have all the sensations of being in a bar. So the endorphins are popping like crazy. They could do an extinction session every single day, and by the time they get out of prison.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, that's Dr. Raymond Nanton's visual cue work, which would be combined. So he believes that you can actually reach extinction without drinking alcohol, with just stimulating the brain to release, because your endorphins start releasing the second you go in the supermarket looking at the wine. So using that theory, the theory that an individual starts releasing pre-endorphins, pre-drinking, when they're walking into their favorite pub, or they smell beer, or they see a bottle of Jack Daniels, starts firing. So all you have to do is recreate that. And you can do that in a prison environment with cheap VR. I'm working with a guy now that would create the program of a fake bar, just a bar, just a person walking around, strippers, whatever you want, that's going to stimulate all of these endorphins going. You do that in prison, and for very little money. I've already been working on it, but that's another thing. It takes money. I mean, even if somebody makes the program for free for me, I have to get the headsets, get it into prison, get it into, that's called a restoration or rehabilitation project, and not a lot of prisons are into that. I'd love to try it in a country that actually has a better prison system. But once again, that's a pipe dream of mine that I would love to do. Because then by the time you send those multiple DUI people out onto the streets, they have reached extinction. And you give them the prescription for naltrexone and say, if you drink on the outside, you're taking this beforehand. But hopefully they've already reached extinction while they're in prison.
Wow.
And have no desire, no cravings to drink.
That's so much. There's so much potential.
There's so much potential for this. It's not even funny. I mean, in the next few years, we're going to see, medications using these sister drugs, naltrexone, naloxone, nalmefene, to address so many compulsive behaviors. The whole landscape of addiction treatment is going to dramatically shift within the next 3 years. Wow. So I think that we'll see these opiate antagonists treat so many things that other people in the past have thought that were untreatable. That I think that it's really going to open up the doors, the floodgates, and I'm thrilled. I'm just thrilled about that. It's so much more humane to treat people with these medications than it is to have them hit rock bottom when it's too late. This is also helpful to people who are about to head down that road, or who have fear of heading down that road because of genetics or predisposition. Activities, somebody who's in hospitality business or advertising or working on a cruise ship, or who knows that, all of this stuff, you can stop yourself from developing an alcohol use disorder. You don't have to wait until you have one.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of this. We can treat teenagers that are at high risk. We can stop sexual assaults because kids are so drunk that they don't know what they're doing, and rapes and deaths and car accidents. I mean, it's such a trickle down effect. Imagine, that's why I keep saying to people, imagine if 78% of the people misusing alcohol were taken out of the picture. 78%.
And not only are they not misusing alcohol anymore, it gives them the potential to really live their potential in life and be a good citizen and a good father and husband and contributor. Yes. It's not just about getting the addiction out, but
no.
It's like a reset button for life. Like, here you go, start again. And it's incredible.
Yeah. Become a productive person, become a productive citizen, become a loving human being. That you think that's not going to affect every single person in that person's wake? Of course it's going to affect everybody else. 78% healthy, happy, loving people. I mean, it's out of 3.3 million who die every year, and let's subtract 78% from that. 3.3 million people, sons and daughters and husbands and wives and fathers and mothers that are dying every year. Let's keep families intact. I mean, it's just, you know, take that chunk out of the equation, and we have a much better world that works a lot better and that communicates a lot better and that just is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how big I think.
I'm right there with you. I'm like, yeah.
You are. You
How
are.
can I help? Let's do this.
That's why people think I'm crazy that I scream about this so much, but I'm like, don't you understand the repercussions if this becomes mainstream, when it becomes mainstream? That we could knock the crap out of alcohol use disorder, alcohol misuse, alcohol related deaths, alcohol related violence. $250 billion a year it costs the US. Let's just talk money. So let's think about what that money could go to now. You know, education, other crises, humanitarian needs. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of lives, a lot of, yeah.
When this like kind of like snowball of impact you're having, it's going to be like the 10-year overnight success. I feel it's just going to like blow up.
Exactly. The tipping point will come and people will say, oh yeah, this thing came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'll be back there.
All like beat up, sweaty, blood, sweat.
Yeah. There'll be one big star, you know, because I'm always saying I just need one star. There'll be one, like, you know, giant superstar who comes out on the cover of People magazine saying TSM saved my life, and suddenly they'll get all the credit.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. Honestly, I don't care. Just let that happen, please. Let that happen.
While you're laying the groundwork for everything.
That's fine. If somebody else can take all the credit, I don't care. As long as my C3 Foundation can keep puttering along and helping people, and you know, it's all good. There's plenty of people to help out there.
Exactly. So, okay, to kind of, I guess, start wrapping up here, if you're ready to, I want to hear how, first of all, how someone donates to the C3 Foundation. Obviously, they visit c3foundation.org. But is there anything more to add there about how someone can give? I know that you can be a monthly donor or a one-time donor. What kind of opportunities do they have?
Yeah, if you sign up on the Donate for Good page, they have an option where you can be a monthly, do a monthly donation, which is fantastic and would clearly help us a lot, because we have monthly things that we have to pay for. You know, because we're a 501c3, we actually have to have a physical office. So we have I've never even seen it, but Jenny goes there because Jenny lives in Florida. I live in Los Angeles. So we have to have this little office in Florida where she ships everything out of and stuff. So, you know, somebody could actually really potentially volunteer to cover the office, or you know, a bill, you know, there's also opportunities to advertise if you're a telemedicine company or something, to buy a little banner, and that helps us out a lot. If somebody wants to donate for a specific cause, such as a program, that can also be arranged through Jenny. For instance, we just had a very generous donation from Glenn Kuros, who helped us with the TSM, the app that we have, and Stuart, our wonderful developer. Between Glenn's donation and Stuart's hard work, you know, on the app, we actually have this working TSM app, which, by the way, is going to be transitioned to in-house. So we will have a better capacity to fix some of the little quirks that it's been having. So we'll tell you more about that when that gets a little bit further ahead, but we're planning on transitioning that too. And right now the TSM Drink Log app is 100% free, and it's without advertisements on it, all because of this generous donation from Glenn and the hard work from Stuart. So those are things that are like specific needs. You give $2,000 because you want to pay for printouts or things that we need for conventions that we do, great. If you want to do the ASAM, if you want to pay for our booth somewhere, Fantastic. If you want something tangible, we will work with you and we will give it to you. If you want to work specifically on the TSM Buddy website, whether it's donating your developing fee, if you know how to build a website and you want to do it for me, God bless you. You know, we'll come up with a tax write-off for you or something for your hard-earned hours. So we would need, you know, there's all sorts of ways to donate. If you can't donate money, you can donate actual things like that. That would be amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so there's a myriad of ways to do it. And Jenny also has specific programs that I did write down, and now I can't find it.
I know she talked to me before when I recently chatted with her about this.
Oh yeah,
significant other support.
It's C3Foundation.networkforgood.com/projects / but you're gonna have to put that link up.
I'll link it in here.
There's a specific one just for projects. Okay. So the big thing is that we really want to start adding more and more providers. So that's one thing that, as I've mentioned 2 or 3 times already, that we really need to start attending more of these conferences. So yeah, that particular conference funding needs and everything is going to be under that Network for Good projects link, which you will have. Other than that, you know, keychain program is also a great one to give to. We've managed to give away something like 870 keychains through providers or directly to individuals that are on TSM. So that's amazing. There's almost 1,000 people walking around with their medical adherence tool, their little pill holder keychain, because somebody has donated $15 for a buy one, give one, which is a beautiful thing to do. So basically that's, you can buy a keychain and you can say, well, I'm going to buy 15 of them and just send me one and use the other 14 for other people. So that pays for the shipping and handling. And it's just, it's another little way to donate, but but believe me, it helps. It's critical for a lot of people for compliance. So you can do little things. And if you have, you know, like, let's say you just got, I don't know, your stocks just went up in Disney and you feel like liquidating. If you feel like giving a big chunk of money, we'll take it. If you know how to write a grant, call me. Let's apply for some grants. If you have some free time and you want to hit up some of your rich friends or do a cookie sale, bake sale, I don't care. Bring it on, baby. There are loads of ways to give back. And if anybody out there has been helped by C3 Foundation, please just think of some way to pay it forward. You know, like I said, we're little, and I want us to be at least medium size.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, it's such an honor to be a part of the C3 Foundation and the important work you're doing and the humility behind it and just the effort and the impact it's having. Like, I feel like it's such an honorable thing to be able to give to. So I hope that people do contribute more and find ways to be creative in partnering with you and contributing to this cause.
Thank you. You're going to make me cry again.
I have a trigger with you. I
am such a trigger. I just look into those baby blues and I start to cry again.
Me too. Back at you, Claudia.
No, I'm so proud. I'm just so proud of you. I'm proud of you. And that moves me. So.
Well, I feel the same for you. I know I've told you before that I literally have had like just maybe a dozen moments where I'll just like get this epiphany moment of like, where would my life be without Claudia's video and all the work she's done and finding TSM, because I was not heading anywhere good. So I'm so grateful for you. Now I'm gonna cry.
Well, we hope that we helped everybody cry today.
Yeah, I know. So earlier you mentioned, and I wanted to get back to this, you were talking about people submitting video testimonials for the website. And yeah. So if people did go on TSM and have a testimonial they want to share for the website, do they send that to you or to Jenny? And I can link all this stuff below the video.
Yeah, we want to send it to Jenny, and we're going to have a whole page, hopefully. I think it was a YouTube page that was linked with video testimonials, which I think are going to be, we recently set up the YouTube channel. So there's several playlists lists of resources there.
Okay.
But what we want to add to that is all these people's testimonials. I think it would be a wonderful, wonderful thing. So
Awesome. So that's
video
another
is
ask for
strong.
anyone watching.
Yeah, anybody, instead of writing a testimonial, I know that we're in the land of cell phones and the era of quick, fast isn't, what is it? Immediate gratification isn't fast enough.
Oh God, I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, that's mine. Immediate gratification isn't fast enough. So what you do is just hold up your cell phone and take a little video of yourself and just submit it to jenny.williamson@c3foundation.org, which Katie will put at the end of this interview. And then of course my email address, and then the Network for Good link, and C3 Foundation. And Dr. Roy Escapa and Ben Bella Books has been very, very kind in allowing us to share the PDF of Roy's book. So on a need per basis. So we can also send that if somebody has that request. A lot of the blogs, the things that we talked about, like the tips and hacks, and a lot of the subject matter that we cover sometimes in the meetings, all of those blogs are available on the landing page of the website. You just have to scroll down, and there's a whole little line of all the blogs that have ever been written, and those are a great source of information for people. The couples one should be up soon, or just got up, TSM for couples. Tips and hacks, but there's a whole bunch of them. So I don't think people are really reading those, but there's wealth of information there as well.
Amazing. Is there anything before we go that you would like to say or add or share, or any last words for those watching the video?
I think that we can all do something every day to try and reduce shame and stigma just with our speech, just vernacular words that we choose. I think that we don't need to say negative things about people with addictions, and I think that's something you can do every day. It's very hurtful. It's you've got mental illness shaming, you've got fat shaming, you've got addiction shaming. Oh, that person's a sloppy drunk. Oh, she was wasted. All of these things that are so common to say, are so not only hurtful, but it's just the little changes that we can make. Now, of course, I'm overly sensitive to this kind of stuff because I was that person that was being called those names. But I also know how powerful words are. And I think that if we change that in our head too, that's somebody who needs help. That's an individual who needs help, as opposed to, oh, she was falling down drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we try and help her, as opposed to talking about her behind her back. That's something that's important that we can all change. I also think it's really important someday for entertainment to start reflecting the fact that there's more than just 12-step meetings. So that's why I really want to do a talk at the Producer and Directors and Writers Guild, and explain that there are a myriad of other ways to treat addiction. You can have a scene where somebody's getting the Vivitrol shot, or somebody's popping a Naltrexone and then drinking. You can have a scene where they're in a SMART recovery meeting. You can have a scene where they're on the phone with their video coach. You can have all sorts of scenes that don't involve people sitting around in an AA meeting, So that's another thing. I really want to change the reflection of medically assisted treatment and how it's being used. Somebody can be on gabapentin or camprosate, or it doesn't have to be a 12-step meeting in every script that Hollywood produces. So that's something that I really would like to see change. And if there's young writers or old writers or producers or directors watching this, make a change. Make a change. Have something unique in your storyline where somebody is treating their alcohol misuse with something other than the cliche of a 12-step meeting, or rehab. That seems to be the only two things I can come up with. So there's a lot of things, and I think we can all just start one little day at a time, and just make little changes in our own actions, and be kinder to each other, be more patient, and if you've been helped by the Sinclair Method or Naltrexone or anything for that matter, with baclofen, with whatever, share the information with people. Mm-hmm. Just keep talking about it. The more you talk about it, the less shame there's going to be attached to it. Bring it up. Yeah, say, oh yeah, I drank too much. Sure, I used this to help me. because
Yeah.
you never know who's listening. You never know who needs that information. You just don't know. And do blogs and video blogs, vlogging, write into newspapers, try and get articles done on things. Be proactive. I think that there's a lot of things that people can do. You don't have to devote your life to it like I did, but you don't have to be an extremist, but you can make small changes every single day.
Yeah. Totally. Well, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me. I really enjoyed connecting, and I'm sure this won't be the last time we have an interview.
No, it's always my pleasure, Katie, and it's just lovely to see you and to see how complete you are now.
Thank you, and
Happy
really thanks to you.
Healthy. It's wonderful, and thank you for everything you do for C3 and for everybody out there.
Thank you,
And
Claudia.
I'm looking forward to our Sunday meeting next
Yes.
Sunday.
Oh yeah, I should mention.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, for these meetings we've talked about, Claudia and I host a monthly virtual meetup for anyone on the Sinclair Method. So if you want to be a part of that or be invited to that, you can contact me in my contact information below.
Cool.
And you want to say something else?
No, I think that was the monthly meeting, and I don't remember.
Okay.
I'll remember once we hang up. No.
Yeah, exactly. We'll edit it back in. Okay, thank you, Claudia. I'll see you later.
All right, Katie. Thank you so much.